Hello, welcome to a Monday Business News Report. It's now time to bring you our feature on the show today. Now, against the backdrop of corrupt practices in Nigeria, the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, has raised fresh concerns around the surge in corruption cases in the country. The tune of loss is pegged at about $18 billion annually to tax evasion, money laundering and other related offences, especially outside the country. Now, according to the International Financial Intelligence, Nigeria has been rated as the worst in illicit financial flows offenders in Africa, in terms of elaborate international fraud schemes alike. Now, the reality condoning these corrupt practices in country, defrauding Nigerians of billions of dollars and naira, cannot be separated from issues around abject poverty, insecurity, and abysmal service delivery, monitoring and oversight function of government and private entities. So far, CISLAC is suggesting the federal government to unravel this through a legal framework, a central database where citizens can access financial records, as well as involvement of chief security officers, the media, and other critical non-state actors in the recovery, management and utilization of these assets. Joining me now via Skype to discuss the trends and challenges recorded over time with regards to revenue leakages through tax evasion, money laundering and other sharp practices, I have economist Michael Ilo. Good to have you on the breakfast show this morning.
David, thank you for having me. Good morning.
Let's now start off with the impact of this volume of revenue leakage on the Nigerian economy. This likely is a conservative report of just how much the economy bleeds, but with the current structure gaps and institutional drive to checkmate these corrupt practices much more aggressively remains a huge challenge in Nigeria. Now, if you attempt to fight corruption, it will fight back. Let's have your thoughts from that.
Well, thank you. That out of 53 or thereabout countries in Africa, Nigeria accounts for more than 50% of the illicit financial flows across the continent into Western nations and the rest of it. We are not sleeping, actually. We've seen moves by ESCC, we've seen moves by CBN, we've seen moves by other arms of government to stem it, but more can still be done. You can imagine what you can do with $18 to $25 billion in a year in an economy such as ours that is bleeding so much. And where do these losses come from? Money laundering, as you reported earlier, illicit financial flows, people refusing to pay taxes that are due to them. I saw some earlier reports. I think in 2019, the vice president alluded to the fact that maybe less than 1,000 people pay up to 20 million naira as tax. Wondering, is it that people are not earning that much, or they have found a way to trick the system by evading tax, by not paying whatever it is that is due to the government? If we are looking for infrastructure, looking for resources, we should also know that tax payment is a very inflow for government that they will use to do whatever needs to be done for the public. The truth is that the poor actually do more, even than the rich. The rich are the ones leading the country there, and this is not a good thing. Let's hope the government is able to come up with innovative ways of tackling the issues and stemming the tide of illicit financial flows in the country.
We definitely need stronger institutions, from tax collection to checkmating corrupt practices, the oversight function of ministries, departments and agencies, and even at the private level, we need to have better monitoring system to checkmate all of the movement in terms of financial flows we have in the country. But now, the much-awaited proceeds of the crime management bill, as part of the report CISLAC release, has not yet been signed into law. Supposedly because of the power tussle within agencies about economically and politically lucrative mandate to confiscate and manage stolen assets. Now, lack of transparency in the management of these assets provides some room for corruption and mismanagement in relooting of the looted assets. Do you share in this as well?
Well, the issues have been laid there. There's a bill that is waiting to be passed that has been passed actually waiting to be signed into law. The government should know that for every day that is delayed, things are being lost. Money is being lost, financial flows that are illegal are being perpetrated there. There's something we call Pareto principle, where 80% of results are attributed to maybe 20% of causes. And if we bring that into what we are discussing, we can find out that the people that are likely responsible for the illicit financial flows, they represent a minor position within the economy in terms of number. And we are talking about essentially politicians, bank directors, maybe the auditors and banks and the people that cover them. And maybe whoever it is within the regulatory agencies that are giving them cover. We had the issue of BVN some years back. It's still quite on now. The aim of that was to make sure that people cannot hide under different banks. If you have a single BVN, you should be able to tie all your accounts together. And if you are doing something illegal, we should be able to track you down. But I'm sorry to say that maybe some people, because they are powerful or they are connected or they have found a way to game the system, they have looked for a way to trick us or to bypass the whole procedure altogether, and they are not getting punished for it. There are things, they said that both debt and taxes are the two sure things, but in Nigeria, even the tax is not so sure. The only thing that is sure is debt. So government has a duty, a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that people don't game the system. Government should look for ways to policies, practices and things like that. Look at what other countries are doing. How do they make sure that everybody pays their fair share of tax? There is tax avoidance. You can avoid tax through the legal means. But evading tax altogether is a crime and should be treated as such.
Michael, I'd like you to hold your thoughts. Just pause a little bit. We'll take a quick commercial break and then we'll come back to this conversation with other aspects. Now, let's also talk about the need for investigative reporting, investigative analysis, and also initiatives like Whistleblowers Act and all of those. In terms of the state of the economy at this point in time, the growth or stagnation we've seen so far within that regard, how would you rate it, for example, the incentives to actually nip corrupt practices in the bud, people speaking out and having protection? Do you think we have the climate that accommodates the report mechanism?
Well, we can do better. And even if we compare with other African countries, we are not at the top of the ladder in terms of access to information. The bill has been passed, but there's a difference between the word, the written word, and the actual practice. The journalists, it's not like they are not trying, but they can do more. And there's a limitation to the ability to be on the side of the law, unless you go to court. If you ask the government agency for information and they refuse to give to you, or they don't give it to you at the appropriate time, they said that justice today just is denied. By the time the information is released, there's nothing you can do about it. It's even more saddening that most times the information we work with within the country come from outside. Data about maybe child mortality, death, crime, volume of illegal guns in circulation, illicit, even this illicit financial flow that we are talking about. The documents, the figures are not generated in country. They are generated from outside and given to us. It's not because we don't have people who are classification and come up with actual figures, but they are not given the resources. They are not given the room to operate. They are targeted as enemies of the state most times. If they want to know more, if they decide to ask some concerning questions or some deep questions, as it were. So we can do better as a country. The whole thing, the way I look at it, is that we do the thing as being for our collective good. If, for instance, you are in government today and you refuse to do that, somehow it will come back to you. If not to you directly, maybe the people who are close to you in a way. We are all battling insurgency, battling banditry, battling kidnapping and the rest of it. Tell me, who feels safe within the country? Both the rich and the poor, as it were. People cannot even drive their car from the Kaduna to Abuja, freely. Now everybody is taking the train. Even the train is being attacked. So we are all in this together, as long as we are here. So both the journalists, they are doing their duty for the country. Those who feel the need to go deeper, they should try. people who are greater risk to themselves. The government itself should see the journalists as friends, not enemies. They are the fourth estate of the realm. They have their duty clearly spelled out for them. That they hold the public office holders and hold everybody else accountable. So these are ways of strengthening democracy, strengthening financial policies in the country, so that at the end of the day, it helps us all, so that Nigeria can be seen as a country that is serious about fighting corruption and not somebody.
There's the need for stronger synergy, and then we also have a greater commitment to also dealing with this menace, because if we don't deal with it now, it's going to catch up with us and eat the economy just right before our very eyes, and we cannot deal with such devastating impact for an economy that is already struggling with quite very harsh macroeconomic issues in the country. Thank you very much for your time, for speaking with us today. Michael Ilo, it's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.